Welcome to Monaco for this weekend's Formula One Grand Prix. It's a race that is truly steeped in history, but before the drivers turn their attention to winning, they first need to get through today's tricky practice session. Lowe's hairpin is the slowest corner of any track on the Formula One calendar. It's taken at just 48 kilometers an hour, but provides a stunning view on the first lap as the entire grid bunches up and tiptoes through the corner, hoping not to leave any carbon fiber parts behind.
This is such a tight bend that a special steering rack is used just to get around this very corner, as the cars would not normally be able to make the turn. There is the possibility of overtaking through Lowe's, but more often than not, you'll end up damaging your car.
Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and this is The Road to the Record, where I work to achieve mastery of 10 games in a hunt for the best score of the Decathlon. If you like what you see, remember to hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. Let the games begin. This is F1 2018, and this is the Monaco Grand Prix. It's week 39 of competition, and I'm heading out on the track for FP1 to get things underway. This is the most difficult track for me as a driver. This is going to be an interesting weekend, to say the least. This is episode number 5 in my series, and it's the 6th race of my inaugural rookie season here in Formula One with my Road to Glory Williams series.
Careful with the front wing, you've taken some minor damage. That's looking good. Now let's try for purple. You'll get a bonus for consistency if you can chain good corners together. That lap. Try again. Okay, decent lap there, but there's still more to find. Keep at it.
As all the cars are now over the line, your top 3 again are Hamilton, Vettel and Max Verstappen. Thank you for joining us for free practice today. We'll be back with more Formula One action very shortly.
Alright, so I've been starting to mess around with car setup a little bit, trying to tweak it, trying to get it just right. This is such a difficult track for me. Part of the issue is the wear and tear on the engine. I still have the first part on everything. I will have to change the internal combustion engine in this race. Right now, what I'm thinking is I might be last place. If I am, I'm thinking about putting a new part on everything and taking the grid penalties. Start last, knowing that I would probably be last anyway, or close to last in qualifying, and take the extra part on everything. So I'm continuing through practice, trying to get used to the track, and then on race day, I might see all new engine parts on everything, more to unlock them for later in the season than it is to get the improvement in this race itself. As of right now, yeah, see, I'm 18th is all that I've managed. And my teammate Sirotkin has done it on Super Sauce while I've done it on Ultra Sauce. And it's not any one sector that I'm losing a ton of time on. So I've just been playing around with the setup. I got a setup ready for dry right at the end of free practice 2. And this is now the beginning of free practice 3. And I head out onto the track. And you can see what's falling. Could we be in for a wet weekend? Oh. So I've got a dry setup for a wet practice. We'll have to see what the qualifying and race setups are going to be like, because obviously I'm very much struggling to get around the corners right now. Here in the wet, already just lost a chunk of wing on the dry section of the circuit. This is going to be interesting. I'm going to head back into the pits and check those conditions for later on, and then see what I can do about right now. Having a very challenging weekend so far here in Monaco. I've only had a single optimal practice session. Fuel management barely passed. ERS barely passed. Race strategy barely passed. I was trying to run a 4th lap to go for optimal, and I was way off the pace, similar to that first lap there, and just ended up bringing it in.
Okay, as you know, this is the 3rd and final practice session of the weekend. If we want to run our qualifying sim program, and I strongly recommend we do just that, this is our last chance.
Opportunity to pick up 50 points. If I can get optimal, but that's highly unlikely. But I might be able to pull it off with a wet setup. Okay, Q1 is going to start dry and finish wet. And the race is going to start with heavy rain and be dry in the end. I'm probably not going to get to the end of that race, I would imagine. I have a hard enough time getting around this circuit in the dry than I do in the wet. That lap I just did in and out of the garage
Track is quiet right now. Let's get out on track while it's clear.
was the first time I've ever even run this track in the wet. Ironically, this used to be my best track. Okay, well, I'm going to target a wet setup as the race is going to be very much wet through the bulk of it. So I'm going to go for wet setup, which means I need to get a new car setup complete here. So I'm back out on the track here during FP3 in the wet rain on intermediates with a new setup that I just pulled from online, a wet setup here for Monaco. That's meant to give me some speed, but definitely adds to the control. And at the moment, yes, I'm finding it much easier to get around than I did on my first go. With a wet race coming up, this is going to be important to lock this down and get used to riding here in the wet. Now here's my background on Monaco. I have logged more laps here at Monaco than any other track, by far. However, the game has changed a lot since I've logged... I probably logged 1,000 laps on this track, but it was a long time ago. So long ago that it's been over 20 years since then, and I was just a kid. And to be honest, I learned how to drive around this circuit, figuring out apexes, subtle steering and things like that way back in F1 96. At least I think it was F1 96. See, I can barely get around this track here on intermediates. Not really managing any sort of pace whatsoever, so cars are really getting away from me. After many laps here run in the rain, I finally feel just enough comfort to attempt a qualifying program. But that extra push you need for qualifying is something that I just do not have in me right now, because I can just barely get around the track as it is. I'm also, of course, not helped by the fact that I have a badly worn engine in right now here during practice that will be replaced in qualifying, and that's it for this run. I got a Ferrari behind me too. I'll let them go. Reset for another lap. Oh, it's not even a Ferrari, it's just Ericsson. Hulkenberg goes well. Grass cast has been a real challenge for me so far. Alright, here we go. Next attempt.
We're down on our target times. Let's try to find a bit more.
Couldn't shave enough speed off there. Still down on time. And not gaining any. Just struggle to get this car around corners. It has okay power, I just can't even get it around corners. The moment I up the pace a little bit, it just goes away from me. I need to go back in and try to alter the setup a bit, less for racy car and more for this car. Well, there's a new one. Sorokin heading into the pits, and I actually have to wait for him to clear out before they'll let me into the pits. The team really wasn't ready for me to come in, was it? It's interesting how they did that.
Have set us back a little.
Go back to maximum downforce. Try that setup here. Ooh, down to 5 minutes here. So with just 3 minutes left in the final practice session, I have one final attempt at the qualifying program, which I have not been able to complete so far, which just confirms that what I already know, I am the slowest.
A mechanical issue means you've lost one of the gears. Say again, you have lost access to one of the gears.
Oh, I lost a gear. That's not good. And with that, practice is complete, and I do not feel ready for the race. The best lap I've been able to get here is 17th. So
Quick look at the classification
myself
at the
and
end
the
of
car
session then.
very much
Here are your
at
top
the
three.
back of the grid,
Ricardo,
and for
Raikkonen,
good reason.
and Max
Tough
Verstappen.
track,
Concludes an interesting
but
practice
still better
session.
than my
Let's
teammate.
hope for more excitement as the
But Pierre
weekend
Gasly
unfolds.
never even completed a lap here. So the only one we were able to beat out is Marcus Ericsson. Alright, so qualifying looks dry, but the race is going to be drenched. And I might not get to the end of that race, so I might not see that dry up. So I very much focused on a setup that would get me through the wet. However, I never did find a setup that made me comfortable with the car. And as a result, I have a feeling that I could DNF even as early as the first few laps. And that is with 3 flashbacks available. I still could see myself DNF in the first few laps. All right, and the next thing, the internal combustion engine is kaput, it's gone bad. So at 92% wear, it's time to change it. And while I have other engine parts that are in good shape, I know that I'm going to be starting last or near last, and at least in terms of race pace, I'm the slowest car out there. So I'm going to go ahead and take penalties that put on brand new parts for this car everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock these for future races for the season by putting an all-new engine in the car. So with that, everything is going to be replaced. Now the gearbox, on the other hand, I'm going to let it go its last race here, as it should be able to get through this race okay.
Here we are at one of the most difficult circuits on the racing calendar. Welcome to Monaco for today's Formula One qualifying. This is the kind of track that eats rear tyres for breakfast, or so I'm told by more experienced drivers than myself.
As I get qualifying underway, I have a 35 place grid penalty for all new engine components in the car. I could actually feel an immediate difference in the power. Now without that grid penalty, I certainly would have qualified last. But with the new engine, we'll see how much power that adds. I've definitely noticed here in F1 2018, the Warn power unit makes a much bigger difference than it made in 2017. My second lap, nearly 2 seconds faster than my first. That's how much time I'm leaving out there.
You're causing unnecessary wear to your transmission. Try to take it easy, or you risk losing it. Mind that front wing. It'll need
And at
replacing
the
if it
moment,
has too
I'm
much
ahead
damage.
of Sirotkin and no one else. But at least I'm ahead of my teammate. Alright, so we get to the end of Q1, and I'm the only one taking penalties. Carlos Sainz never did get a lap in. He never made it out of the pits. So technically I qualify P19, but only one position lost to Sainz on race day.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That was how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean Sea. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. We already see the lowest average speeds of the season here at the Circuit de Monaco, and they'll be even lower in the difficult conditions today. 19 corners make up this famous 2-mile track, and with the rain, it'll be even harder than usual to get that critical heat into the tyres. Don't be surprised if we see a safety car at some point during the Grand Prix. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today.
So my objective for this race is purely survival and nothing else. My expectation is last place In fact, I'm not even going to be looking to make a pass. The only way I don't finish last is cars that DNF.
Well then,
My
after an
expectation is
exciting
I will
qualifying
DNF.
session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, and Hulkenberg, Bottas, Magnussen, Alonso, and Esteban Ocon, Van Dorn, Grosjean, Pierre Gasly, and Perez, Hartley, Ericsson, Sergei Sirotkin, and Carlos Sainz, Leclerc, and the Professor. Now it's almost time to lights out.
No heroics into Sandoval, please. We're in amongst the pack and just need to stay in one piece.
Ooh. 0 pit stops, huh? Okay, well, I will certainly go with that strategy. And I've got 2 extra laps worth of fuel, which is good. With that, we are ready to start the Monaco Grand Prix. My favorite track. A track that I used to be good at, but that was way back in F1 96, which is where I learned how to drive. I literally logged hundreds, if not thousands, of hours in Monaco alone, racing it over and over again with complete races again and again and again on weekends. I literally learned how to drive racing that F1 96 game and racing here at Monaco. But the game has evolved, the game has changed. Even the track layout is ever so slightly different than it was back then. And it's far more a sim than it is an arcade game as it was back then. With that, the challenge has stepped up considerably, and I have yet to sort this track out. I used every minute of every practice session trying to develop and grow as a driver on this track, and I'm just not there yet. So, the real testament of my improvement in this series over time will be here. When I can perform, when I can compete, when I can score points at Monaco, I'll have made it as a driver. For now, let's see if I can survive the day. I get 3 flashbacks. I will need all 3 of them, and the 4th one may be enough to take me out of this race. We'll see. Five lights at Monaco. We are ready to race. It's wet and the lights are out. And I'm going to start off kind of slow. I want to hang out here in the back. I'm going to get to the inside. Already Ericsson has a problem. I could have made a pass there. I could have gotten a couple positions. But like I said, I do not want to get caught in traffic. I just want to survive today in one piece and not get lapped 10 times in the process. So with that being the objective, so far so good, as we head through Casino Square for the first time with a traffic jam. And somebody's already had contact, as we got double yellows. We come to a just standstill here at the start of this race.
You're pushing
There-
too hard. It's causing braking efforts to take increased wear.
Poor start there, and now the field starts to get away from me. I'll be able to start running at my pace. Now, I've pushed it harder than this, but I want to actually be successful and not use the flashbacks. And already, briefly into the wall.
Virtual safety car. Reduce speed immediately and keep a positive
It's like somebody else has had a problem.
With the front wing, you've taken some minor damage.
Still in 20th. And well back. So I don't think anyone's out of this race yet. Oh, nope, there you go. Kevin Magnussen is out of this race. So that was not for me bumping the wall. That was another incident somewhere else. And there's Magnussen. So it was somewhere in Rascasse here where he pulled off. I get that final turn. And I'm experiencing pretty heavy vibrations. So I don't know if that's the gearbox or the tires. So it could be either. Or just the weather, the suspension. I'm already a ways back, but they're on the mini-map. And I've already survived long enough to not finish in last place.
You've lost access to one of the gears. You've lost one of the gears due to fault.
And I've lost a gear due to my gearbox failing on me. That's not good. Looks like fourth gear is out. Yep, no fourth gear. So far my goal for survival has gone relatively well. This was my one danger zone here at Rascasse. Let's see if I can't get through it this time a little better. I do.
Okay, bad news on the gearbox. The team are trying everything they can think of, but they're not optimistic. Just keep at it, do your best. That's all we can ask.
Alright, well that was 7.5 seconds better than my best lap so far, so better than the first and second laps. Of course, one of those was under a virtual safety car, and the other one was the opening lap, which was a lot slower, especially from the back of the grid. Oof. Lost traction there. Oh, uh-oh. Okay, I guess I'll...
You have a lot of wing damage. Box for a new one.
With that extra damage, I come into the pits. Alright, waiting on a new wing.
Release, release.
Let the clutch out too early. Okay, now I'm going to run the danger of getting caught up in the field sooner than I wanted.
Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now.
And yes, the grid's not that far behind. They're already there near the pool. Whoa. Just trying to warm these tires up and I'm already bouncing off the walls. But I haven't used a flashback yet. Looks like a Mercedes leads this race right now. Or at least if that was the front of the grid. And there was a yellow dot there second, which means it's possible that one of the Renaults is actually up as high as P2 at the moment.
We're trailing our teammate by 38.9 seconds.
Vettel leads the way. Mercedes is second. There's quite a gap there at the top, actually. But that was my best lap by far there, lap number 7. I was over a second better than my previous best. And there goes my first flashback.
Let me know you're okay.
So my line was definitely off coming through there. And here we go. First flashback from here.
Safety car deployed. The safety car has been deployed. Watch your delta. Make sure you keep it positive as we catch the pack.
Full safety car is out. That's a huge boost for me, as I'll catch back up to the field. Alright, so safety car is in. That safety car session was a huge boost to me as I went from way behind the field to just behind the field. I actually never did catch back up to the safety car because its pace, you know, they were only losing 10 or 20 seconds a lap, so I only picked up 25-30 seconds on them as the first lap especially, so I was pretty slow. And especially when I was on lean mix and had my ERS deployment off, I wasn't closing down quite as fast as I could, but I certainly appreciated the fact that I was able to run some laps without pressure, slow down that couple seconds per lap, and actually get through the laps clean without stress. And every lap I run around here makes me that much more comfortable for future. Ooh, okay. That's the first time I've gone that far over. Warning for corner cutting. So nobody went out on that last one. Based on positions, it might have been Ericsson that had a problem, just because he was the one who was back to 18th. But as you can see, the rain has just about stopped falling now, but the track is still very wet.
We've lost one of the gears. The transmission is significantly damaged. We're down a gear.
And for the second time in this race, I have lost a gear. This time it's 5th gear. That was a new fast lap for me. 0.6 better than any lap previous. Track is starting to dry up a little bit. At least the racing line is. You could actually see it. Ooh, uh-oh.
Damage to your wing. Damage.
Alright, I'm going to use my second flashback on that one. Came in way too hot. And this is a good place to resume. So that's 2 flashbacks. Went in here way too hot. Track's getting faster, and as it's getting faster, getting a little more bold, and immediately have a problem. So with only 1 flashback,
ERS to overtake.
only 1 flashback left, and I will need to be careful here the rest of this race. Woo! I lost traction there. Bad place for it. And I actually just lost traction again. I got off that racing line a little bit where it's still wet. Still no sign of anyone on the mini-map, which is good. That safety car was a huge boost for me. There's Vettel.
Update on the car. The gearbox is damaged.
Uh-oh.
Gearbox is
Uh-oh.
damaged.
Uh-oh.
Are you alright? Engine
I lost the gearbox and bumped the wall because I was in the wrong gear through there. Here goes my last flashback. It looks like I've actually recovered the gearbox thanks to that flashback. That was the last flashback of the race, though. So it is lap 14. I've got a little ways to go yet, and I have 0 flashbacks.
25.5 seconds.
Much closer to Ericsson than I used to be, so I am definitely racing faster than I was. Still away enough here. I might be able to get through this thing without getting lapped. And I might get through this thing. But it's only lap 16 of 20. So 3/4 of the way through this race. And I'm getting blown away, but I'm still in it at least. And this will help me a lot in future races.
Our gap to the car in
I
front
got
is
5th gear back.
25.5 seconds.
Well, now I've lost 2nd gear. So I got 5th gear back, but now 2nd gear is gone. So I suppose if I'm gonna have gearbox failure, at least it's happening on the race that I am already really bad on. I just don't like the extra damage that I could be taking to the rest of the engine, possibly.
10 minutes left of this rain, then we think it's going to dry
As
up.
hard as I could.
10 minutes.
Honestly, just try to get to the end of this race. And take a little more practice. Like Rascas, I'm doing a lot better on Rascas than I was earlier in this race. A lot more consistent. My gap to Vettel is shrinking, but it's lap 18. He's not going to catch me as long as I don't wreck. If I keep this thing out of the walls anyway, I will not get lapped. And there's my small victory.
The gap to the car ahead is 25.6 seconds.
Track conditions are certainly changing now. I can feel it more and more here in the car. I would love to pit and put on fresh tires and go try to set a fast lap, but I like that's gonna happen.
Final lap of the race.
Whoa! Curb slid coming right off the curb. Luckily, just light damage to the wing. It's the last lap of the race. I'd really like to make it to the end now. There goes Vettel. Probably for the win. Yes, he ran away with this one. Through Casino Square for the final time in my rookie season. Woo. Boy, you missed that line, and that is a dangerous tunnel to get through. Whoop. And there's the checkered flag in the Monaco Grand Prix.
Take care of the car on the way in.
Last one to cross the line. Magnussen never made it to the end of that race.
Great effort there from Ferrari to take the victory today. Anthony, what do you think made the difference here?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
So here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So that's a win for Vettel, second for Hamilton. Raikkonen takes third in this race.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. It's a good result for Sebastian Vettel, who moves further ahead at the
Prado
top of
comes
the
in
table.
fourth.
Now then, Anthony Davidson,
Stop
who
it.
was your driver of the day?
Fifth.
Well, after a drive like that, it's got to be Charles Leclerc, hasn't it? Very clean, very smooth. He can be really pleased with that one.
On to the constructors then. Ferrari extend their lead at the top of the championship.
The only stop of the
What a
race was
weekend
myself,
that has
so
been.
everybody
Please join
else
us
went the
next time
distance.
for another thrilling installment of this Formula One season.
I actually closed up the gap a bit. I only finished 26 seconds down on Ericsson. I was down more than that, which also means that at the end of that race, I was at least right about maintaining speed.
Amazing performance out there. You must be really happy. Things looked close between you and your rival for a bit, but you came out on top, didn't you?
Did I come out on top? Oh, that was the rivalry.
Did you feel comfortable in the wet weather today?
Great team behind me, sure.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race with that crash?
We really need to focus on more downforce. Suspension. We'll go with suspension. Chassis department. That's what I was hoping
Appreciate
for.
your time.
Hopefully they'll see that as a higher morale and not a lower morale. Yeah, see, I did manage the fastest lap over Sorokin, and that was enough to complete my first ever rivalry. I'm about to, as I start my second rivalry with Sorokin, I'm about to add a new rival for the first time. Team gold bonus, 500 points, plus rivalry win. That's enough for 2,900. That's easily going to complete the upgrade that I needed to finish off the efficiency side of the chassis department. And despite that horrible race, I actually get a boost out there, so...
That's very disappointing. I know you can do better than that. Take stock of what went wrong so you can get a better result next time. You hit your last team goal. Well done. That should get the team a nice boost to their development, and it won't hurt when it comes to your next contract review either.
Alright, so it's time to select a rival.
You can see a
I
list of
intentionally
eligible
waited till
drivers
after
to
that
declare as
race.
your rival. The more challenging they are to beat, the more the paddock will respect you for succeeding. Just be aware, you'll lose the same amount of respect if you come off second best. So it may be wise not to be overly ambitious.
Now, after increasing the AI difficulty after those two 7th place finishes, I have found it very difficult since. I have not finished in the top 10 since. Well, I haven't been in last. I've had, 4 straight races? 4 straight races? No, 3. 3 straight races where I've really struggled near the back. So I think AI difficulty-wise, I might be right about where I belong now, which means Ericsson's just about the only driver that I've got much hope of beating at this point. So I'm going to start with an easy one, and we'll go from there over time. So I'm going to set up a rivalry now with Marcus Ericsson, and simultaneously we'll be going on one with Sorokin. And before we wrap this episode up, we head to our chassis department. And the most expensive of all areas, but this is long-term, it's lasting. We go to the chassis department and get that final upgrade to the efficiency. So efficiency 5 is completed. Now, as far as I know, even if there are changes to the regulations, which resets things like chassis development, this shouldn't be affected. How your factory works, their efficiency and their quality, that should be constant, regardless of changes. At least that's the hope. So with that done, we are ready to move on. Now, I could immediately start with quality control or go for the first improvement. You can see it's only $270 is the cost right now, and that's actually a 4% increase in cost, which is unfortunate because I certainly was hoping for a little better than that, but I don't know if there's any difference in the direction we go. It looks like, at least at this point, it's the same. So intercooler or floor, let's see, engine cover, that's distribution, energy store cells. So none of these look like they're going to have any, it's all weight reduction or redistribution. Okay, so we're going to get our first upgrade going on the car. It's going to take 2 weeks to complete. Cost me a little bit more, and there's 39%. Oof, that's pretty high. Why don't I do this first? Now, what's the next one? Oh, 600. Boy, maybe I should go for it. What's the chance now? 32% chance of failure. That's still pretty bad odds. So I think I'm going to hold off a week on the first car upgrade and make the quality control level 2 upgrade, and I still might be able to get this done before the end of the practice session next week. No. You know what? I don't want to head to that next weekend yet. Let's do this. We're going to do it. We're going for it. Be bold. 32% chance of failure. But that's still pretty good odds that it will be completed, and that'll be for France. So the car's first upgrade is coming in France. And that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer, and remember, I'm aiming for the best of the best. So if you're ready to join me on my journey, hit subscribe, and tune in next time on my road to the record. Bye for now.